Today we're looking at the Pelican application, something that we've been developing for over, I think, 7 years now. And this is our risk management system, the only, as Opie said, the only fully quantitative risk management solution out there on the market. So today's presentation, I want to go through a few slides that show the introduction. So why would you need a quantitative system? What you need to look at when picking the ERM solution that fits your needs. Also, I'll walk you through why we've designed the Pelican the way we designed it and what makes it unique. And then we'll jump into the quick demonstration of the software. I'll show you how it looks and feels, and then you can ask the questions that you may have. Right. So, starting with the goals that you may have when looking into the risk management system, an integrated risk management system for your company. What types of questions people normally ask when they look for a system that automates the risk management process? So things like whether you want to basically have the risk register to be an exercise for creating the quarterly reports, or whether it needs to be something that is used for decision making, or something that is a valuable asset within your decision making process. Whether you want to link your risks to the corporate strategic objectives, for example, whether you want to integrate the different types of the risk-related information, like the financial risks, health and safety risks, project risks, etc. Whether you want to have alerts and monitoring of your controls and mitigation procedures. Do you want online dashboards? Do you want integration with other systems, like maybe you have specific incident management systems or something that you want to relate to your risk register? What is the current status of your risk management processes? Are you running your risks off the spreadsheet, or are you creating the heat maps like that with your GRC solutions? How do you measure the cost effectiveness of the controls that you put in place? All right, so all these types of questions we normally ask when we see interest in our solution, in our Pelican solution, so that we can respond to those questions and then show how Pelican can actually be used to answer those questions in a way that is user friendly for end users and actually adds value. So what is so distinctive about Pelican? First of all, let's look at what the alternatives are. And the alternatives are, of course, the heat maps that is a traditional approach to the risk management. And you may, since I think if you are here watching this, I think you are aware of most of the drawbacks that this is qualitative or semi-quantitative approach brings. Like you all know this type of the heat map, where you have on x-axis you have the chances of occurring, probability of occurrence of a risk, and then on y-axis you have the size of the impact, and then you put in risks in those boxes which are colored green, yellow, red. And there are problems, of course, with this approach, because you, for example, cannot distinguish between the 10% chance and 0.1% chance of occurrence. They all will fall into one box, but there is a 100-fold difference between the probability of occurrence. And the same thing with the size of the impact. So 100K and 2 million can be in just one box. And then what if a risk has a financial and a health and safety impact? Where do you put it? So it's not possible to do an aggregation in that sense. So how would you then also calculate the aggregate financial exposure? For example, having those, imagine those are financial risks. How would you aggregate them? How would you sum the red, the yellow, and the green, for example, and compare that with the portfolio of projects for another project, or portfolio of risks for another project? So all of those limitations can be overcome with the quantitative approach, which gives no compromises, is transparent, defensible, but also it doesn't need a lot of precision, I would say. Even the estimates that are not very precise, they can also be useful. At least you will see the aggregation, and you will see where the main volume of risk resides, even if you have the estimates that are not very precise. Pelican, to respond to those limitations, Pelican offers a quantitative system that allows one to define the things like entity structure. It allows to define the consistent scales of impact, so that you can aggregate the data, or aggregate the consequences of different types. So it can aggregate the impacts of risks over a project or over a company as a total, and then show you the aggregate exposure. For example, it can also calculate, as one of the use cases, can also calculate the chances of your strategic goals to be successful or not, given all of your risks and uncertainties that you put into your risk register. It can calculate the cost benefit of your controls that you put in place, and optimize the strategy for implementing your control procedures, given that some of the controls can be reused multiple times and affect many places where the risk is being controlled. You can connect risks together and say that one risk is a driver to another risk, and you can create a domino effect. For example, that one factor is actually controlling one factor will reduce great volume of your risks, because a lot of risks are coming from that common factor. And since you are also can capture incidents and link those incidents to risks, you can calibrate against your historical data, so you can see how much risks have you experienced in the past, what were the sizes, what were the frequencies of those risks, and compare that with the estimates that you're planning for the future, forecasting for the future, and then you can alter all of your forecasts to make them respond to the changing situation. So what is Pelican System? Pelican System is a web application that is installed on-prem for a company onto your server, and it offers the authenticated access to the risk register, allows you to log your risks, apply the different quantitative estimations to the probabilities and to the severities of those risks and its consequences, and also create analytics like dashboards and reports. There's two optional components to Pelican. One is the project risk component. So if you're doing Monte Carlo simulations on your projects. We have a module specifically for that that allows you to use your Primavera P6 or Microsoft project schedules and apply uncertainties and risks to the activities within those schedules. You can actually download those risks from the risk register, link those to the activities, run the Monte Carlo simulations, and then send the results back to Pelican, to the dashboards and to the reports, so that you can show those to the people who are interested in, the status of your project, or maybe you're interested in seeing the analysis of the portfolio of projects, looking at how, in general, our projects are doing compared to each other. The third component is the risk modeling component, which is a environment where you create Monte Carlo simulation models, financial models, most of the time, to model your NPV or IRR or cost estimations. Given that you can download, also again link to your risk register, link to your financial risks, use them in the calculations of NPVs, and automate those analysis to run according to a schedule, and update the dashboards and reports, so the results that people see on the dashboards are always up to date. And then there is also an API that you can use to communicate with the system and share the inputs and the outputs between the system that you're already using. So what are the key differentiators in our view? Pelican is fully quantitative. There is no ambiguous risk scoring, no heat maps, although we have a key heat map within Pelican, but it's a bit different. I will show you during the demo. And I guess the most important, that it allows aggregation of risks. That is not possible with qualitative systems. So you can calculate the total volume of risks per project or for the whole company. Pelican offers bowtie diagrams. So bowtie is very handy and quite popular recently, a quite popular instrument for describing the strategy for managing your risks. So in together is just, instead of one risk, one line describing the risk is now described with the collection of objects, like the drivers that cause the risk, the consequences of different types that the risk can produce, and then the controls and mitigations that decrease the chances of having a risk, and decrease the severity of the risk. And Pelican has a lot of extra tools because it is quantitative. It can link a lot of different advanced tools for specific use cases, like financial analysis, project, ESG, strategic goals, insurance, etc. I'll show you some of that a bit later. And the main benefits you're getting from Pelican is that the users are expected to make more informed decision making. They're involved into more informed decision making because they have data to support their decisions. Efficient use of capital and opportunity management. So you spend money on controls and mitigations that are more cost effective. You can align risk management activities with strategic goals because you can link risks to the goals and see how each of the risk is affecting those strategic goals. Unambiguous risk information gives better and faster management consensus because the analytics are defensible, and you can drill down to a tiny level to see where the analytics are coming from. So it's very transparent and defensible. Your minimizing the risk of non-compliance issues, as a lot of the modern compliance requirements require quantitative analysis to be performed during your risk management process. Pelican is also quite easy to implement. Some of the fast implementations that we saw, they happened within 1 month with minimal implementation costs. So it's easy to roll it out, and with a few training courses, the team can already start working with the software and putting their risks. Last but not least, it can bring all of the types of risk management into one place. So you don't need to use different places, different software for different use cases. Like risk registers can be combined with the ESG analytics. They can combine with the project risk analysis and financial risk modeling, etc., all within one place, and all of the results can feed into the same dashboards and the same reports. And these are the use cases that you can use when implementing Pelican. So, of course, it implements the quantitative risk register and analytics. You can work with the prospect or project risk management. So starting with the prospect, where you're planning a project and addressing some of the foreseen risks, to the implementation phase, where you go into the project and work with your risks that are already current and actual. You can use Pelican for model around risks, creating NPV models, cost models, Basel II if you're a bank, Basel II models, etc. You can model your ESG objectives. You can analyze company strategic objectives and see how risks actually influence those. You can model the performance measures, the KPIs, KRIs, which are customizable and can be put on the dashboard. And you can also model the insurance coverage. So these are, and actually this list is not limited to some custom use cases. Custom implementations can also be possible, because the system is pretty flexible to allow for various use cases. And now let's quickly look by the benefits by role. So for senior executive, why would it be useful to have Pelican? Senior executive normally look at the big goals, like strategic goals. They can define what they want to see, where they want to go as a company, like things like to have an EBITDA of some number by the specific date, or to have to release 3 new products, for example, to have a client retention in excess of say 95%. So these are just the examples of strategic goals one can trace. And the system allows you to link risks to these strategic goals and make this link of how each of those strategic goals can be influenced by the risks that you store in your risk database. And then the system automatically calculates the probability of achieving the strategic goal, and then you can drill down and see where these numbers are coming from. So what is, which exact threats are the strongest ones for each of these strategic goals. So you can focus on those threats and focus on controlling those threats and communicating that to your management. For the CFO, the CFOs are very often concerned about the aggregate exposure. So the system automatically calculates performs the Monte Carlo simulation using inbuilt Monte Carlo simulator. It accounts for all interactions, all links between risks and say common factors and common control procedures, etc. All that is taken into account during simulation, and the person can look. Person can look at that exposure from different angles. You can look at the total financial exposure for the whole company or for just a unit or a project. You can split by these risk breakdown structure, etc. So it's very, very flexible and powerful at the same time. So for the internal auditor, Pelican being also a record management system, logs everything. So you can look at the risks that have been entered into the system. You can look at the history and the frequency of those risks and how often you do the reevaluation of those risks, and you can log the incidents and relate those incidents to the risks that are being forecast into the future. So all those things are automated and they exist within the capabilities of the software. Then for the IT manager, Pelican implements fully supports the factor analysis of information risk. So it's a standard for the cyber risk management, which has been actually developed in cooperation with the Vose software. The guidelines for the FAIR analysis have been developed with the cooperation with Vose software, and our bow tie approach, as you can see on the picture here, fully supports the FAIR methodology and even extends it. So it goes beyond FAIR, allowing for example, many-to-many relationships and sequential risk events. So one risk event can cause another risk event, which in turn can cause a third risk event. So all that is fully under the FAIR methodology and beyond. For the risk manager, so Pelican provides a full set of tools. So evaluating process and associated risks, the quantitative bow ties, aggregating risks into different categories for region, for operations, for business process, etc. You can monitor the status of the controls and mitigation strategies, and also make sure that they are cost effective. You can evaluate third-party risk, so you can see how much risk is coming from your subcontractors, for example, and how much risk is controlled by third parties. So you can make decisions out of based on that data, etc. The Pelican is also offering the users customization in terms of organizing the process of risk management, so that that there's a structured approach to entering and editing risks. So it starts with the potential issue, and then it's verified by a designated person, and then someone is accepting ownership of that risk, and then it goes into evaluation. So all of these processes can be defined. The roles can be distributed to the team of risk managers or users, and the whole process can be automated. So whether you do need or don't need the software, don't need this functionality, the software offers it. Then there are fully customizable reporting capabilities. So you can define the layout of your report. You can customize the analytics that you want to see in those reports. So very easy to do. It doesn't require programming. It can be done by the end users, someone who is capable of constructing queries to the database and who is familiar with with constructing those reports. And the reports are easy to construct using the drag and drop instruments. The project manager yeah, if you're a project manager, if you're doing Monte Carlo analysis on your projects, yeah, we have all the tools for that as well. You use your Primavera or MS project schedule. You add uncertainties and costs. You make links to the Pelican database, and then you also can use spreadsheet risk models for calculating the budgets, for example, of your project. Upload the results to the dashboards. And for risk analyst, of course, that's the capabilities for the modelers of risk, allowing you to create NPV calculation models and perform Monte Carlo simulations. So getting started with Pelican, yeah, what you do is pretty easy. You define the structure of your entity. So you have an enterprise at the top level, then you describe your companies, your child companies, the projects underneath, etc. And then you define the types of impact that you care about. So what are the negative impacts that you want to trace or to use in your risk register. And the common ones are financial, delay, health and safety, negative impacts, reputational impact. But this list can be changed and more impacts can be added, or you can remove some of them that you don't need, for example. And then you provide also your risk appetite. So you can define what is the catastrophic level for the whole company, and what is catastrophic level for or high level for, say, a project, right? So that you can calculate impact scores both on the project level and on the the global level. And calculating impact scores is really enables you to, first of all, compare the risks of different types between each other, so that you can compare the financial risks and health and safety risks and reputational risks in one table. And if we calculate scores for each risk, then you can compare apples and apples. And it also allows you to aggregate the risk. So if one risk is can cause multiple consequences of different types, then you can calculate the aggregate exposure of that risk and calculate the score for it, given that it has many types of impact. Then you put your people in the system, and you can put them manually. You can connect your single sign-on, for example, or Active Directory, and then the people will automatically have access to the system without needing to have even a username password. And then you can also import your existing risk register. If you're running the risk register in Excel, for example, you can just upload it into the system, put it into the specific format, and then upload it, and then you have a jump start with your risk register. And finally, you can customize, and the customization don't require us to do that. It can be done by the end users. And you can specify the dashboards, you can specify access rights, you can define the KPIs, KRIs, you can specify what alerts you want to get coming from the risk register, and what modules you want to use. For example, you want to have the ESG component there and calculate the evolution of your ESG metrics, for example. So that's the end of my slides, and let me jump in to the demonstration of the software. And first, I would like to show you the bow tie approach that we're using for the risk register. So we actually have two ways of entering information into the risk register. The one is quick and easy one. It's called the quick risk. And it allows you to just fill in one form, edit form, where you specify the name of the risk, the entity that the risk belongs to, owner of the risk, and then you define, then you apply quantitative estimates basically to the risk. You describe how likely it is to occur. So it can be maybe a fixed probability, or it can be a frequency if the risk is repeatable, right? And then you define what size, what is the impact? Like, what is it? Is it a financial loss? Is it a health and safety loss? And if it's a financial one, then you need to specify the number, how much you can lose, $10,000. So you can also specify the uncertainty distribution around it. And it's also possible. And then you specify how you're controlling that risk. So what is the controls and mitigation that you can put in place? But this is quick and easy. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on describing this. I'm gonna show you something a bit more interesting. So the second way of working with the risk register is to use the bow tie approach, where the risk is no longer a single line. It is described with the bow tie diagram, where you have a risk event in the center. In this case, it's loss of sensitive information. So something bad happens here at this point. And on the left, we're describing the different factors, or we call them drivers, that can lead to this risk event. And each of the drivers is again defined with this edit form, and you can specify the name of the driver, the person who is monitoring it, and then we are describing what is the frequency or the probability of this driver, and how likely this driver will actually result in the risk event. So we need to provide some indication of the probability of occurrence of this driver. And of course, the more precise, the better. But even if you are if you are unsure, you can still pick, say, from a range, right? Is it 25 to 50% maybe? So we can be a little bit more vague here. So you don't need to be 100% sure in your estimate. You can specify the ranges of the possible values that you're expecting here. So we have drivers on the left, we have consequences on the right, and you can see that the icons are different, which means that these consequences are of different types. So this one is, for example, a financial consequence, loss of trade secrets. So if we're losing some trade secrets, we are experiencing this a loss. And here in this case is described with the probability distribution, with a 3-point distribution, and you can choose pick another distribution to describe the uncertainty. Here we're just using the 3 points, so minimum, mode, and P90. But there are other consequences. So this one is, for example, the reputational consequence, and we also having an uncertainty around it. So we think that the reputational damage can be as low, but it can also be medium high. But the most likely damage would be medium, right? So we can, because this is a qualitative type of consequence, we need to use those categories, but we can describe uncertainty around our estimates. The other items or the other objects on this diagram, these are control procedures on the left and mitigation strategies on the right. The control procedures are implemented to reduce the chances of the risk event, given that there are these drivers. So for each driver, we can implement several control mechanisms, each of which has a specific probability of success of stopping this escalation from the driver to the risk event. And you can see that there are different colors to each control, which specify what the status of those controls. So this one, the green one, means that it's implemented and active, and it has a certain probability of success. So if it's successful, it will stop this escalation. I apologize. Now the red one is, for example, something that is implemented but currently not working. Someone checked it and marked it as not working, so it's not actively contributing to decreasing this chances, this calculated chance of this risk occurring. So this 0.5 events is already a calculated number. It calculates automatically based on all of the drivers and all of the active control mechanisms. So it does the calculation here, and then you have the mitigation strategies on the right, which decrease the level of the negative impact. So if here you have a legal fine, which is described with this distribution, then we have a mitigation strategy with a specific probability of success. And here it's 30%. And if it's successful, it will reduce the impact by 50%. So this distribution that we've seen in the consequence will be shifted to the left, half between 0 and then the original impact. There are a couple of things to say about the bow tie diagram. First of all, is that all of these elements they can be used multiple times. So, for example, the driver, external intruder, can be used to model several events. So several risk events can come from this factor, and the system will automatically calculate the importance of managing this driver, because it is so important that is a driver for many risk events. And like here, for example, the control mechanism is the same one. So you can see endpoint protection here and here. And it also can be used in another risk event or multiple risk events to decrease the chances of causing a risk event. And the system, of course, automatically calculates the importance of these drivers and compares those to the costs of implementing those drivers. That way, it is offering the users a cost-benefit analysis that they can analyze. And as I said before, we can model the interdependencies between risks. So this is another risk event, a consequence of which is actually a driver to this event, and one can create a whole network of risks that all influence each other, and can model a domino effect. For example, if something happens on the left, it can cause all of the other consequences to happen. So at this point, when the risk is ready, it's marked as active. The system automatically calculates the scorings for the model and includes the risk into the global Monte Carlo simulation model. And now let's look at the types of analysis that we can look at, that the system automatically produces. So, for example, we can look at the list of risks with the calculated impact scores, both for impact scores on the global scale, impact score on the entity scale, on a project scale, for example, and also compares the unmanaged and managed. So this is taking into account all the controls and mitigations you have in place, and against unmitigated risks, so without the controls and mitigations. And then you can look at, for example, the list of drivers, the list of controls. So look at the scoring, also look at the added value. So how much the value is bringing that control against the cost of the control, because the costs are also captured within the system. So you can go in and, for example, look at look at the details of that control mechanism, look at the cost of implementing those controls. For the analytics, we can look at the dashboards, which are customizable and can be built for any client within a very easy to use dashboard designer it's a drag and drop instrument, the BI instrument that allows you to build custom dashboards. And this dashboard, as an example, the dashboard can you can see it's calculating the total aggregate score of all of your risks in the system and how much reduction of those of that volume of risks you've achieved by implementing the controls and mitigations, and what is still or what is yet possible to achieve if you implement the controls and mitigations that you're actually planning to implement, or if you're considering to implement. And yeah, so it's interactive. Dashboard is interactive. You can look at the drill down by the type of impact, for example. One more thing here is the financial exposure. So in addition to calculating all of the impact scores, the system can perform the Monte Carlo simulation and show you the histogram of the total aggregate financial exposure. You can look at, for example, the managed versus unmanaged and see how much this S-curve is shifted to the left because of the implemented controls and mitigations. And you can also look at the percentiles of that distribution, see what the 90th percentile, or how much you can lose with the confidence of the 90%. Okay, so that is what we've seen. That's quantitative risk register and what you can get out of it. And I would also want to show you just quickly use cases. So if you are doing projects, then we have a specific section for projects, which starts with defining a template of a prospect. Like, for example, if you're a chain of branches or shops, then you can have like a template, open a new branch. With this template, you describe the common risks that are normally present when opening a new branch. You describe also the opportunities. You link the calculation models, NPV model and cost model, and these are spreadsheet models, which I can just go ahead and view. Yeah, so you can see here there's a calculation model attached to this project, and it looks like a regular Excel sheet. You can see it's a Excel sheet with the calculations here, with some probability distributions here. All can be linked to the risk register, and the purpose of it is to calculate the NPV of that project, right? And the next step, what you do is you go to prospects, and you start a new prospect, and you pick the template, and that will create already a prospect with all of the pre-filled risks and models, and so you need to go in and then assign it to someone and customize it according to your current placement, right? So if you're opening it in Japan, there may be specific risks that are still applicable, so you can add risks, you can change risks, etc. But you have a basis to start from, and you can deploy the templated strategies for managing those risks, which you can then customize. And then you can convert the prospect into the project. So that is implementation stage. And you can go in, you can assign responsibility for those risks, for managing all those risks. And by the way, all these risks, they have a bow tie structure. So you click on it and you look at the bow tie structure of that risk. You have opportunities, you have calculation models. You can also apply the qualitative assessment of your project. So according to this risk breakdown structure, and that is a use case that some of our big clients is using. So you evaluate the state of the risk on a high level, for each date of your evaluation. right? And then finally, you create a dashboard that is monitoring the status of that project, combining all of the information that is related to that project. For example, it shows the NPV histogram that is the result of running this Monte Carlo simulation model. It shows you the probability of NPV is greater than 0, how probable it is, 100% currently. It shows you the CapEx risks, shows you the OpEx risks. It shows you the results of your qualitative assessment of the current prospect against the database of all of the past prospects that you had of the same type. So you can compare whether your current project is doing good against what you've seen in the past, basically, or whether it's an outlier. So again, this is customizable, and you can add other stuff in here, but that's a good start already. So that's prospect. Yeah, so you can also look at exposure. So look at the projects in your company. So that's like a portfolio analysis. Look at different projects and look at the simulated finish dates of those projects. So this is coming from the project simulation module. You can look at strategic goals. The overview of strategic goals is, as I was showing you before on the slides, you have goals defined and calculated probability of failure of those goals. You can look at this goal, for example, what are the strategies of achieving this goal and how they are affected by the what is the chances of failure of those tactics. And then you see where the threats are coming from. So in this case, they're coming mainly from the reputational risks. You click here and then you see those risks. So you see the threats and you can view those, click that, and then view, say, the bow tie for that. And then maybe you make a decision on, okay, why these controls are not working and why am I having such a big reputational risk here? Maybe there's something I can do to control and to mitigate that risk. Okay, and finally, I want to show you the ESG a little bit because we are running out of time. So this is a different environment where we have some ESG data here, and we have here, I've put together in this demo instance a couple of objectives. So in this one, we have an objective to reduce CO2 emissions from global plants by 30%. And the system automatically calculates probability of achieving my goal, a target goal. So here it shows the evolution of the total CO2 emissions by my company, the target dates and the target volumes, and then the forecast. So going into the future, what are my target goals and what are the chances of achieving my target goal? So I have two targets. One target is 30-30 to reach this volume, and I have a 75% chance of achieving it. And I have a second target, which is this amount, and I have a 70% chance of achieving it. And this is what I'm doing to, these are my driving factors for, these are the projects that I'm doing, projects. And all these projects are contributing this much to the exposure or to the to those metrics that I have in the system, and these are my risks and opportunities. So that's the biggest risk that are impacting my driving the risks of not achieving my targets. So all this is coming from the quantitative information that I'm putting here, defining my ESG objective. So I can define the ESG objective, I can define my targets, I can define my records of the metrics, and then I can define the risks in the bow tie structure that, for example, impact my CO2 emissions, right? So something unexpected happened, and I'm losing the ability to reduce my CO2 emissions, for example. So that I've described, the main functionality of the software as a quantitative risk register, a few use cases that we see our customers are working with, and I hope you've managed to follow it, because it was pretty. There's a lot of information to actually process. So please let me know what questions you have, and I'll be happy to respond to them.